doesn't even rhyme.
Yeah, it does.
Bring it back on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Everybody up. Go.
Would you sign off?
Turn mic up on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Let me in.
Go Russ. Go weird. Bring it back on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Everybody up. Go.
Would you sign off?
Turn mic up on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Let me in.
Go Russ. Go weird. Bring it back on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Everybody up. Go.
Would you sign off?
Turn mic up on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Let me in.
Go Russ. Go weird. Bring it back on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Everybody up. Go.
Would you sign off?
Turn mic up on the mic.
Vote, gotta vote.
Let me in.
Go Russ. Go weird.
And all this look at me and dad made a sound. And all this look at me and dad made a sound.
Bring it back on the
All
mic.
this look at me and dad made a sound.
Turn mic up on the
All
mic.
this look at me and dad
Go Russ. Go
made a
weird.
sound. Wow.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Darachat. I know you just had one yesterday, but that's just how we do it. Anyway, my name is Daramouthe, or Dara for short, because I know some people can't say Daramouthe, say Daramouthe, which is the incorrect saying. So Daramouthe or Dara, just in case you don't want to say the whole thing. But anyway, I'm here with the man from the far north, from one of the coldest places on Earth, other than maybe Antarctica, which is a little down south. But anyway, welcome, AlaskaManJeff. How are you?
Greetings and thank you for having me on. Yes, it is very cold up here. I have the air conditioner on and it is in the 70s.
It's so cold. My air conditioner's on because it's in the 70s. Yeah, that really sells it. It's like, oh wow, it's not that cold at all. They go up there, it's like -50. Oh, I can't move.
We do have areas up here that do get down to -50s, even -80s.
Jeez.
I'm nowhere near that area. Thankfully, I am along the coast, which means that I get the warm Pacific Ocean, which is at a like 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
So does that mean it's if you were to swim in the ocean, it'd be a lot warmer than being in the air? Is what you're saying?
Technically, yes, but you will still freeze within about a 15-minute to 30-minute time frame. They do have to have rescue teams to get people in those situations.
Oh goodness. Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't actually do it, to be honest with you. We during the winter, the lowest it got was like -10. I was like, no, because usually at that point our cars may not start. So you guys literally write the book on like how to survive in the cold. Chapter 1, bear skins, lots of bear skins.
Exactly.
You put or a lot of beaver skins. It's up to you how you want to get it though.
We actually, my grandfather was a fur trapper when he first moved up here back
Really?
in the early 1900s. And one of the things he would do is go after and get beaver pelts. And it was not a very lucrative business.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I doubt back then it was like dollars on the whatever. It's probably less than that. But to keep yourself warm, I mean, you got to do something,
Yep.
right? But yeah, I've never. I've always been the one of like maybe taking a trip during the summer, and then before the winter just touches, you just get the hell out of there. Run! It's coming. You know what? I bet Alaska was the inspiration for the the ice wall in Game of Thrones, because it's just so.
You're not actually wrong there.
Really?
When people were first moving up to Alaska, they encountered a series of massive mountains and ice fields. It was called the Alaskan Armored Underbelly of the state because no one could get through it. And so they would sail along the coast and they were like, dang, how are we going to get our equipment over that? And some explorers would try and find workarounds. They found 3 passes, basically. One was up through the Chilkoot Pass down around Juneau. The other one was up through Canada, and the other one was up the river of the Yukon.
Interesting.
But until they found that, no one could actually get in.
Interesting. Well, I mean, of course, I thought it was when I talked to Phoenix or conspiracy fans of Twitter X, when I had talked to her about like Alaska, I was like, well, I thought Anchorage was it because it seems like a very big population, but no, it's Juneau, and Juneau's, I believe, is she said where the oil fields are. Um,
It's where the first gold mine was found,
really,
or one of the first gold mines was
one
found.
of, one of the first gold mines. Oh, that's interesting because again, it's yeah, again, Alaska is known. I mean, of course, you also have military bases that are up there as well. There was one dude I saw from a YouTube video, and it was some kind of military base where they just pretty much people are just living in this building, old military base, and then there's an underground tunnel that goes, and it's a
Mhm.
school for the kids. I don't know, I can't remember the name, unfortunately, but yeah, it's just there's a small amount of army bases around, and of course, being part of the U.S., and of course, I know you guys call us the lower 48 because that's what she said as well. So there's that.
Precisely.
But my thing to her was like, you guys really don't. When she was describing, her point of view of Alaska, it's like there are roads. I believe she said there were up there that were just one way. And I'm just like, what? Why? It just seems like it makes so much.
Yep. Well, it's a huge state. And so imagine trying to put roads out here. You might be servicing one person, maybe 10.
Mhm.
It's not worth it in many cases.
Right, which is which is understandable, but if it kind of feels like you're more of the forgotten state because you're up in an area where it's, of course, during the winter it gets very chilly and cold beyond all reason, and down here in the lower 48, you have people complaining about infrastructure and stuff. I'm like, look up there, they barely have any of that. I mean, it's just like a few cities here and there, and then it's just like, you know. And of course, but again, of course, you guys have like like Discovery Channel, the ice trucking
Oh, yeah.
show, the Deadliest Catch, which I'm pretty sure put you guys in the map for a bit. And then of course, there's like different people who are followed around that live, showing the living life of in Alaska, and that's mostly just like living off the land sort of thing. They're really out there people, but there are cities up there. They're just it's I would think it's a very different turn of how you would describe a city from up there to a city down here. I'm not sure if I'm right on that, but that's what it feels like.
So when you travel to Alaska, it's not the way it used to be.
Really?
The Alaska that you probably would say is related to the kind of the TV shows is
Yeah.
more like from the 80s or the 90s. It's modernized a lot.
Mm.
In fact, people that move up here are one of the first things they will remark. Well, they travel up here and they'll say it's amazing how similar this is to the lower 48.
Interesting.
Now you can find very rugged wilderness.
Yeah.
It's a huge state,
Yeah.
but we do have some pretty big population centers at this point.
Mhm.
And the people that travel up here, it's amazing the percentage that say, that's it, we're moving to Alaska.
It's part of the U.S., so I mean, it's not like you have to have a what is it, a passport. That's right. It's not like you have to have a passport. It's part of like Hawaii, right? Like Hawaii's. I don't know what you probably just call Hawaii, but yeah. But
notice that that's not a part of the lower 48. So there's 48 states that we
Yes.
kind of view, because Hawaii is like the youngest child. We view it as kind of like an extension of Alaska, you can say.
Yeah, well, Alaska, but in the warmer sense, because it's
Yes.
always warm there.
It's our vacation destination.
It's a funny thing. It's the opposite of each other. You're like the hot and cold of siblings, I guess. But what number is Alaska in the sense of state-wise? Because I know Hawaii was the last, I believe, the 50th state.
Mm-hmm. We're 49.
Okay, so you're one after the other. Okay, so that does make sense.
Precisely.
And you're just like, look, guys, this place, we gotta just go on to something else. Let's find something a little warmer.
Yeah. Actually, if you look at the two states, we have a lot of Alaskans that love to travel to Hawaii, but we also
Right.
have a lot of people from Hawaii that come up to Alaska for work.
Really?
because you probably have heard of something of the island fever, of where things are so cramped and
Yeah.
small that you're like, you just want to bust out. You want to go somewhere else.
Mhm.
A lot of islanders from all over the Pacific
Mm.
actually move up here to work, and they love it because they feel like they have elbow room.
Right. W- Yeah, because well, I mean, cabin fever, right? Cabin fever is like one of those things. The same thing. It's just on a smaller scale, right? Where you're stuck in a place. But of course, when seeing those places like the military base, where you people all live in this one building, and whatsoever, it sort of feels like, well, they kind of cramped themselves during that point. So it kind of feels when you say that, it kind of feels, well, there's this one place, and it kind of feels the opposite of that. So, but then again, it's a choice, right? It's a choice to live there. So,
Mhm. So
but
I believe you're referring to Whittier, the place where everybody lives in the same building.
yes, yes, I think it's the one. Yeah, yeah.
So it is changing. They
Oh,
don't do
good.
that as anymore.
Oh,
I mean, they do have a lot of people that live there, but
mhm.
they're building roads out there. More
Nice.
structures are everywhere. I
Mhm.
was actually down there recently, um, and it's amazing how big it is compared to when I first saw it as a kid.
Mm.
Um, it is probably twice as big, at least visually to me, twice as big, which when you get older, many things will look smaller. This was the reverse, so
Right.
it was quite substantial.
Man, I went to see that Lincoln statue, and he got smaller. It just got taller. What? But no, that's awesome because again, I have never been to Alaska, and I my information is only by people I talk to, which is just you and someone else. So, and of course, the videos you see of other things as well. But my assumption was that they weren't really bettering their system, like infrastructure. Like my thing to her was like, if you guys could just have 50% of what we have, you probably would be in a better deal. But from what you're describing, it's like there are some places where it's like one or two people, and then that's it. And of course, you're spending money to keep up the infrastructure, especially in negative, below negative sort of ordeal. And it's just like it kind of makes sense of why that you wouldn't build hard like asphalt or concrete roads out that way. But
Actually, we have one of the fastest growing areas in the country on the Kenai Peninsula, which is about 50 to 100 miles south of where I am. So it is popular area right now.
hmm. So, I'm guessing because people move up. I know I'm asking so many questions about Alaska, but I
Some
live
of them.
through you. I live through you. No, it's I figured that once winter does come around, though, people do have kind of over time adjust to that extreme cold because again, Alaska is known for its extreme cold. Compared to like, you could be in Minnesota and experience extreme cold, but it doesn't get as much as say what Alaska gets because you guys are more closer to the Arctic Circle, which probably means you guys get to see the Northern Lights a bit more, right?
Yep, I've seen it 3 times, but it's not nearly as nice as it is further up north. The further north you get, the more vivid the light is. So
Yeah.
the most I've seen is like little wispy. Um, it looks like
What?
smoke vapor in the air.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like very faint. He's like, "Is that the northern lights?" Well, it's pitch black outside, so yes,
yeah.
of course it's going to be the northern lights. But then there was one time when I was going out and I looked up at the sky and there's nothing. I go a little bit further and I was suddenly struck with the realization that I was able to see the ground a lot better and looked up and there was actually green northern lights. It was the first time I've seen them that vivid, but
Mhm,
compared to what they see up in Fairbanks, for example,
mhm.
it pales by comparison, literally pale. But
Interesting.
I've only seen it 3 times, 2 times wispy, 1 time vivid.
Now, see, we down in the lower 48 got that taste of it just the one time I've ever seen them, but it was different colors, green, red, lighter red, because of the whole sunburst that happened not too long ago. So the colors were much more different, but it was only one night because it happened, I think, a few nights, but there was only one night I got to experience it. And then went outside and it was thankfully the weekend. But it was just like you go out there and you just see it. Now it did start out, like you said, willowy wisp vapor and all this stuff. But once it got to the point, the colors brightened up and all this stuff, and it does look like it's just wisping around in its colors. And again, that's something that we don't get the benefit of like you guys do because we're farther away. Those it's not strong enough. But once that sun stuff started hitting, as strong as it was, I mean, we got a color show.
Mhm. Exactly.
It was a fun time, but yeah, that's a rare occurrence. You guys have more of a opportunity for that. But yeah, again, my knowledge of Alaska is limited because again, of course, you have TV shows that Discovery. You have maybe like YouTubers who kind of show off their living up there and all that stuff, which the advent of the internet, right? But to experience it yourself, whether you go during where it's warm and you're not dealing with that extremity, you go during it's warm and you enjoy like the I know there's probably many tourist spots up in Alaska where people come up every year during the summertime and they just fishing, they go do all this stuff. But during the winter is sort of a different beast in itself because you're dealing with a harsher element, which to be honest with you, I hit to -10 this year, and I was like, no, no, would not do again. Would not would not do again. I'll take 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you very much.
It's fascinating to me to ponder how everybody has a place they're made for.
Mm.
Now, it turns out that my family heritage actually hails from northern European countries.
Really?
We are used to very cold weather. We're used to very wet weather and coastlines. And ironically enough, I have ended up in a location that is it doesn't mirror, but it kind of rhymes with the country that my ancestors came from.
Right.
So, but this place is favorable to myself, whereas someone else, they're favorable to the desert. If I go to the desert, I start to wheeze horribly because the dust decides it wants to try and kill me. So I can't stand it. I can't stand the Midwest because of allergies.
Really?
And so, yeah, I've been to many places, and of the places I have lived, this is by far the healthiest, you could say, for me to live in.
Yeah, because of course, you get the crisp waters, the clean air, all this stuff. But yeah, Alaska is sort of. I mean, I doubt a huge chunk of Alaska's is lived. I mean, of course, you have the people who live on the outskirts and stuff, but I'm pretty sure like maybe like half of Alaska is livable or less than that. I'm not sure what the percentage is. To be honest,
it's very, very tiny in terms of where people are living. I saw a map of the Alaskan interior. Now you have to remember when we got Alaska. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a history tour here.
Thank you, Teach.
When it was just before the American Civil War, so 1800s, the British beat the Russians quite decisively in Crimea. During that time period, Russia got scared. They started looking at their empire and they realized that their territory all over the globe was now in jeopardy to British annexation. They looked at Alaska and said, if something goes down, if Britain decides that they want to extend Canada to the Pacific all the way, we're not going to be able to hold it. And so they said, hey, who can we give it to that would basically be a thorn in the side of Britain? And they thought, hey, there's these Americans that just waged a war, 2 wars with them. Let's give it to them. But we were going into the Civil War. And so Lincoln said, no, not yet. And he had part of his cabinet, a man by the name of Seward. Seward was insisting that if America wanted to have a more secure future, we needed to get Alaska. And so he was trying to make the purchase.
Mhm.
Well, American Civil War comes to an end, new president comes in, and they said, okay, let's resume the negotiations. We bought Alaska, and as we started to move up to Alaska,
Mhm.
the Russians, we found out, had barely scratched the surface on the coastline. They had barely gone to the interior.
Mhm.
And that's when we discovered the armored underbelly of Alaska and why
Mm.
it was so difficult. If it had not been for the Alaskan gold rush,
Mhm.
we probably would not have seen the state really become a state. It probably would have remained a territory for a great long time.
Mhm.
But when the gold rush hit, it drove hundreds of thousands of people into the interior. And after that point, Alaska was permanently part of the US. But they stayed along the rivers
Oh.
and along the coastline
Mm.
because that's the only way to get to and from civilization. What, you ran out of beans and flour? Well, too bad. You have to wait for the barge. Sure, you can go out and hunt, but there's not a lot of farmland up here, or at least there wasn't.
Okay.
So the reason why is because we have the problem of permafrost.
Yep.
So permafrost would kill all the roots of the plants. So you had to get rid of the permafrost so you could actually start planting farmland,
Mhm.
which we now have plenty of farmland.
That's nice.
But yeah, that's why the state is slowly growing.
Mhm.
And as the road system starts to go into the interior, people are traveling along it. That's actually how the city of Anchorage and Seward began, was because
Mm.
of the railroad. That was the only
Oh,
reason why they could actually start.
interesting.
So,
Yeah,
roundabout
again,
way to answer your question, but that's
yeah,
why.
I'd rather have that part anyway. But yeah, because I don't know much about the history of Alaska or anything. It's just known for its extreme cold and whatever information you can get out of other people showing it off, which is just through internet, through just things like Discovery Channel, whatever. So you're getting a it's like the livability of Alaska, like you said. You're getting a very small taste from a very small group giving you about whatever, and it's mostly just dramatized because you gotta have interest.
Mhm.
But I'm day to day life is not. I would think is not um as unsimilar as say the lower 48, even though as you say it is growing, it is reaching that point. So it's not like it's not stagnant is the point. It's not stagnant, it is growing, which is great, because to have a state that's you know up there, hard to get through and all that stuff, once you're able to carve out pieces to make it easier to get into, the land itself becomes abounding and plenty for those who want to either move up there or whatever, which it can have its own worries too. But at the end of the day, Alaska is a state, so you think at some point people would start living up there despite all the other stuff.
It is truly an amazing territory, and I keep this background of snow just kind of as the reminder that it can be cold, but
Mm.
for the most part, it ends up being just an absolutely lovely um,
Oh.
wilderness. It is like you're living in a postcard. In fact, if I goes outside and was to take a photo of the mountain that is outside my door, I could easily sell that online
Do it.
and make a fair amount. Actually, we have a neighbor that does that. He steps out of his porch, takes a photo, and posts it, and immediately can start selling it because we're in an area that's just that cinematic,
Yeah.
and that goes for most of the state.
Hmm. Yeah, because again, I mean, of course, you could look at the 48. You have the monuments like Rushmore or whatever, and sort of the Appalachian Mountains and the Rocky Mountains, all this other thing. But when you go to Alaska, there's a difference of feel because it still is not as crowded, right? I mean, you could probably still have some states down here that aren't as crowded because, whether it be the temperature, like, of course, we have the Tornado Valley, through Oklahoma or whatever. And you have situations of California, which just seems to be always sunny. Uh, but yeah, but the thing of it is, like, Alaska still is at a point of it's not as, say, big as California in essence, so it's not as big as like New York in livability. I mean, you're not as like you don't have a bunch of people that like a million people like or whatever the amount of New York is. You don't have that same amount in Alaska, or at least concentrated as like New York, because that would be that would be something. Um, but no, that's pretty awesome that you can do that. And I would still say do it, because again, you're not really, you're not like the people who go out, buy a land property and put a house on it. You're just taking the picture of what is. And of course it could be a documentation of things too, because again, once somebody moves in a position of wherever, because I'm pretty sure there are certain parts of Alaska that are no go because government, or
Oh yeah.
tribes.
If you don't want to be bombed or things like that.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have a bombing range where it's like, do not go here. We test bombs here regularly.
Oh goodness. Well, thank goodness they're not the radiative kind. That'd be a little different. But I'm sure there's also places too where the Inuits, right? That you still have,
Mhm.
because there's still parts of Canada that would have those type of groups up there. So I'm pretty sure there's some places like that you can't go as well. So but Alaska itself is such a and I've heard this from some people too, is just such a beauty. Like you said, you can walk out your door, breathe in that air, and you just literally see nature at its best form, mostly untouched, still doing all this thing. And yeah, just make a calendar out of it, basically.
I actually have taken quite a few professional photos up here.
Nice.
And that's when I realized everybody up here has a camera. So that becomes really hard to try and promote stuff. And so I actually had a photo gallery that I was trying to sell photos at, and I sold a grand total of 0. So
come on in.
but I realized at that point, you know what? This photo thing was fun. I got to see a lot of Alaska.
Yeah.
But that's when I realized there was so much more to the state that its beauty could do. And one of the things I noticed is that artistically, trying to come up with ideas was a lot easier because I was surrounded by beautiful vistas. And so whenever some people will pore over images of the wilderness, trying to better understand it. And whereas for myself, all you have to do is walk down the street and suddenly you're met by something like that.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, no, I did not take the photo of that one, but it is a very common sight. Seeing bears up here, seeing moose, eagles, all these animals are right there. And they are full of inspiration. And so other people, they need to spend money to go and travel to a place to get that sort of inspiration. I just step out my door.
Yeah, that comes like it's again, if you like live near Yellowstone, right? You'd have that view sighting, or say like the redwood forest in California. If you live near there, you could easily have that. So it's just dependent on where you live, but those breathtaking sights of nature themselves, it's sort of a what was it? What's the word I'm trying to say? It's sort of a awe-inspiring moment, but it's sort of a reminder moment how to a degree you're kind of just traveling along the road and just being part of the sights, because nature does not care at all. You come across a bear, you better hope and pray you don't get caught.
Oh yeah. The wilderness up here is hazardous, and
Yes.
every week it seems there is some sort of news article about somebody that got mauled, somebody that got stomped, somebody that fell off a cliff, somebody that ended up in an avalanche. It's all over the place. And honestly, you're only as safe as your precautions.
Yes.
And if you grow up with it, if you live in it long enough, you become wary. and
Yeah.
you're not going to make the same mistakes. And fortunately, my family has been relatively safe when we travel around. I have a lot of relatives that live in the state,
Sure.
and everybody's been just fine. But we know other people, they walk 5 miles down the path and they get lost. So,
Yeah.
yes, it's all over the place.
Yeah, that's crazy. But again, like you said, you live in a place that inspires creativity, and also you just get to be a part of the beauty of it all, right? Because I doubt there are many people. Well, of course, living in Alaska, obviously, but I doubt there are many people who've been in the lower 48 who can say the same. You could probably say, "Oh, Hawaii has that; they have all the stuff," because it's a smaller containment. Um, but yeah, it really is a awe-inspiring moment of being reminded that if you're not careful, you will not make it out of here. That sort of thing. So just
Mhm.
just one of those helpful reminders. It's like living in a place like in Tornado Alley. You're gonna live in a place where you might get sucked up, but you do your best.
Yeah, you learn to live with the risks, and
Yeah.
if you are flexible and you have a good brain on your shoulders, then you're probably going to be in the clear. But it still requires you to be wary.
Yeah.
And so many people up here, they are good at knowing that. It's usually when the tourists come by. Now, I did take this photo.
Nice.
It's that's one of the beautiful mountains that surrounds the place that I live.
Nice.
And I'm right on the outskirts of the city, so I get to have a better vista in that
Yeah.
sense. But what I've noticed with the people that end up getting hurt is usually the people that are tourists
Yeah.
who don't necessarily understand the risks, and
Yeah.
they say, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to go out hiking. I'm going to go for a jog on the path." Okay, what happens if you come across a bear? Oh, try and make yourself look big and clap your hands. Oh, no, 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 no. Sure, that can work, but
Yeah.
you're risking a lot.
Yeah, you're like, come on, get out of here, go. Oh.
Why is he coming at me? That's why you travel with a heaping big pistol
Yeah.
or rifle, because honestly, if you come across a scenario like that, that bear will maul you. No question about it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Obviously.
it is required that if you go traveling into the wilderness, take a firearm, even if you're going down the street, because we live with moose and bear everywhere. In fact, the moose will actually travel into town to give birth because they know they're safer in town than out in the wilderness with a bear.
Wow.
So then you have to deal with these big moose that are very protective, that are just a deer the size of a horse that
Yes.
decides that it wants to pick your yard to raise
Yeah.
its young, and you
Yeah.
want to let your dog out, and it's like, wait a minute, we got a problem.
Honey, I think we're gonna have to let the playground go for a while.
Precisely. So,
Oh.
but you learn to live with it, like I said. So we had a moose live in my parents' yard for an entire winter. It
Oh.
had a calf in that place. So we had the moose around for probably a combined total of like 7-8 months,
Yeah.
and just stayed in the area, and it was perfectly happy, munching on the grass, munching on the mushrooms that grow on trees, and we had a little stream that went by, and it was perfect for it.
Yeah. And of course, you're like, I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yep.
This is not National Geographic. Like, and we see from afar the male is trying to make contact with the elk. It is not going well. It looks like, oh, he's running for his life. It is not looking good. Someone get a copter.
Mhm.
But I did want
Exactly.
to ask where in Alaska is, because Mount McKinley, because that
It is
was
close towards the center.
okay. Yeah,
So
because
yeah, it's about 200. No, it's like between I think it's like 150 miles north of where I am. So it's a fair distance, but you
yeah,
can see it clear as day. You
wow,
go out on the bridge as you're going into town, and you look over and you just see this gigantic mountain. And Mount McKinley will appear with no haze on the occasion. Other days you can't see it, but on other days it's like you put a magnifying glass over it. It is stunning.
Yeah, and of course that was named after a president, wasn't it? Mount McKinley. Yeah.
Yep.
I see. I know. I know some things. Okay. Barely,
Precisely.
But so yeah. So of course you're up there and stuff, but it was, and I tried to explain it in my description. It was cross coming from my pay it forward stream that I did, that I came across you, and I'm just, what. I don't know. You can ask me questions too if you want, but why content creation? Why do this thing? Because it's everyone's to give a brief description. It's like peeps. I've seen some people try to do it. You hear either the fame or the money sort of thing, or they do it just because it's fun. But it feels like when you were thrown them on it, especially with the Twitter X stuff, right? When they threw monetization, you saw bait post after bait post after bait post. People, and they still do it, or the R18 posts. You keep seeing these things where it's just like trying to get them, and the funny thing is, right, when they hit the number to earn something, they post and so thanks guys for helping me get there. I'm like, why? You just showed your hand. Why?
Yep.
But why get into it?
Well, a couple of years ago, I was seeing our culture struggling. I was seeing friends that I had met suddenly going online and kind of disappearing into the void. I was not really big into doing anything online. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed playing a game on the occasion. Enjoyed watching YouTube videos. But one of the things I told relatives is I do not want to stream. I do not want to even spend time on the internet. I think it's a net negative for our culture. Right. And it was because I was seeing what was happening to these people. They would go in and they would just get washed up. Well, a while back, I had some YouTubers reach out for material, and they wanted me to help them create intros and other graphics and whatnot. And in doing so, some of them asked for assistance with their live streaming. And I was like, I don't live stream. And they say, well, we kind of need your technical know-how. So I went on to help out with that. But in order to learn, I started live streaming. And the viewership was nil because I was doing it in secret. Right. And then suddenly the people that were associated with the YouTubers suddenly found out, and I suddenly found myself, you could say, sort of trapped. But it panned out because it was actually very beneficial in the long run. But at the time, I didn't know what to make of it. Now, I ended up with the night owl crew. With that night owl crew. Sorry, tongue tied.
You're right.
They were the people that would wake up in the middle of the night, getting ready for early work and whatnot, and then they would see that I was live and they would jump on and listen. But so I was helping out the YouTubers, and I had this slow growing community that was kind of curious on what I was doing. And I was just testing stuff to hand over to these YouTubers. Right. But then one guy asked to have me help him out with acting. I am not an actor. Yeah. But I understand the world of acting. Okay. And so we actually did role play. We went on to stream. We did dual streams, and we did role play in Red Dead. And it panned out pretty well. We had actually some fair size audiences at that time. And then I had a falling out with the YouTubers over a very big concern, and that
Right.
was the community.
Right.
I saw them disrespecting and abusing it, and I was like,
Mhm.
this can't be the way to move forward. And so I could not, in good conscience, stay with that. So I jumped ship
Mm.
and decide, well, there are still people that are coming around, and I'll make stuff for them.
Mm.
But then it got me curious about doing more creative stuff. And so the
Yeah.
streaming is the gateway to a lot bigger stuff.
Right.
Hopefully this year we will actually see a lot of those things materialize. Some of the preliminary stuff is out,
Mm.
but we're not there yet. We're slowly gaining speed.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's how you want to start, right? A slow burn to begin with, just trying to, because I do this sort of, I mean, I started out recording videos, because I was using StreamYards to do that. I was whatever. And then at a certain point, I wanted to try the live streaming, but Rumble was like, you had to have the 5 people and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, whatever. After a while, I just paid for one of the pro packages, which allowed you to live stream regardless of the number. And so I just did that. And then I used OBS to do both paths, because you have to pay StreamYard like $25 a month to just stream to beyond one place, and they're very limited. So when that happened, I was doing that. I was doing like movie review stuff. I didn't do any more recording videos, honestly. I was doing like movie reviews. It's just like 1 or 2, and then I did like recording some gaming, and I was like, well, it's okay, it's right, because I was just trying the thing of like what other content creators do. You run through this thing, and it wasn't until I had a lady on named Zora, because I did like a chat game stream before, and it was like whatever, just talking while I played like a modded Minecraft. Um, but it wasn't until she came on and I was able to talk to her for some odd reason I can't remember anymore. And after that, it just came this traveling road of, okay, but what about the next person? And of course, how everything starts. It's rocky. You never know if you'll get another person on, and you just find wiggle rooms to work with. And of course, find another person and another person connected here and there. And so it's sort of grown to where, and this was like, I didn't start. So I'll say this: I didn't start making any video stuff until last year in May. So that's already
Oh,
gone.
wow.
That was video stuff. That was just pre-recorded, whatever. And those are no scratches on the surface on either platform. Then coming to the streaming factor, I didn't start streaming, at least from when I looked it up. I didn't start streaming until August of last year. So that'll be a year coming up. But I didn't expect at all, because I didn't think I could make anything of this at all. Not the financials, whatever, but just people connecting with people and all this stuff, to the degree of like, because I do pay attention to my numbers, but I don't pay attention to my numbers, if that makes sense, because it's not the ultimatum. Again, the conversation is the main part, and all the other stuff is, like dessert or whatever. Even though I know I have to kind of focus on the, generating more engagement in order to be seen more. But I'm just like, I don't edit my stuff. That's why I do the live stream, because I don't edit. The only thing that I do edit is the shorts I do, but those are using a program called Opus.pro. And I do kind of pay monthly for that, but or at least for the time I need to do a stream. But I use their system, and I enjoy it. It does 90% of the work, and I just do 10. So, but I still do editing to some degree. But I'm no professional. The thumbnail stuff. The thumbnail stuff I use Canva for. If you saw the thumbnail, I tried to be very witty with the title, but I don't know if that worked or not. But the man they called AlaskaManJeff.
Actually, that did kind of happen. Someone was just saying Jeff from Alaska enough that finally stuck. So it's actually kind of true. But I gotta know, where did the name Daramouthe come from?
So the basic principle, the basic form of it is actually, it's based off of an alcoholic drink. Now, I don't know if you drink or not, but I'll give you a shot to figure out which one.
I actually have a very low tolerance for alcohol. My stomach does not set well with it, so I drink water and iced tea. So I wouldn't be able to know the brand.
Right. No, it's not a brand. It's just the name of it's vermouth. Right.
Oh, okay.
Vermouth. And because, as a kid, right, or I was a teen, as someone with an imagination, you hear these weird words like chop suey or whatever, and you're just like, oh, that sounds weird. So vermouth was that word. The first iteration of messing around with that word is actually the fan account on Twitter X. That's the first iteration.
Mm.
And then after a while came this one. And there was also another reason to it. So that's the first part of the reason. The second part was like you go online to like these like RuneScape and all these other game places, and you'd enter in a name, and then all of a sudden like, well, I have to enter numbers in after it, right? Like someone had already taken this thing. This was a solution for that. I could enter it in, and I wouldn't have to enter a number after it, which it's worked out so far. But Daramouthe is just a name I made up to, one, not have to put a number after it, and also two, because I'm imaginative, and two, because vermouth just sounded like a very weird word, and I was like, because of how it sounds, right? When you look at vermouth, it's Vermouth. You could say vermouth, but that's not how it sounded out. It's vermouth. And I thought that's pretty weird. And so Daramouthe, and of course, this is a silent E. It's a silent E. Of course, if you know your basic language, you know the E is silent or whatever. And when I made it up, it was just like, it's mine, because I made it up based off of something that's already been out there forever. Two, I don't have to put a number after it. And three, because three is just a number one. It's just doing that over again. I made it up. That's why. But yeah, that's just where it comes from. There's no grand thing from the universe or whatever. It was just playing around with a word that sounded weird to me, and because I'm just as imaginative, it came from that point. And I've been using it ever since. So of course, people have trouble saying it, like dare, say Daramouthe. I've run that a lot through my pay it forward streams, where people say Daramouthe's like no, and I put the Daramouthe. I have to do the pronunciation look of it, like how you pronounce it, how it's said to pronounce, and it works out fine. But then I just like, they can just call me Dara for short. That's fine too. But it's basically just weird looking word, and then wanting to have something that will have a number after it, and it's worked out well so far. So people either call me Dara or Daramouthe, just because I corrected him at one point. But but yeah. And so, like, for me, like I said, I don't editing other than using the program Opus.pro. Editing is, I just can't do, because I'm not that, I'm just not that too deep and depth of it, because again, I feel like there are a lot of times where you watch a content creator and their bloopers are more interesting than the edited stuff. And for me, it was just like, well, maybe I'm a bit lazy and I don't want to do the editing or whatever, so we'll just leave that alone. But when I started to do conversational stuff, when I started going more and more, I found that a lot of the creators I follow, mostly on YouTube, because Rumble was still a new thing at the time. I found a lot of creators, they weren't over time. Sorry, not at a certain point, but over time. I found a lot of creators, they pick a niche and they stay there. And when you see stuff like the whole Star Wars, and they say Star Wars is dead and that sort of thing, it's just like, but why do you treat it like it's still alive? You say Disney is dead, but you won't treat it like it's dead. You'll treat it like it's alive. And of course, that comes the whole monetization factor and whatnot. And maybe some of them have fun doing their stuff. But for me, it was just like, they aren't really going beyond what I see with 24/7 news. The news of the day, top story, whatever. It's just like, there's nothing there. We have thousands of, you can have archaeology, sure, you have that, but I'm just like, why can't you have something that can go anywhere? Like, I'm not confined, I am not confined, so it's a night. I am not confined to a topic. I am not confined to it. I mean, yes, podcast, okay, that is a thing, but I'm not I call it Darachat. Everyone who has a podcast thing, they've usually ended with like cast, or name it this, long title, whatever. And I'm just like, I'll Darachat. There we go. Because chat is sort of what we're doing anyway, conversation. But at the end of the day, it's sort of like, I don't want to be in the sphere of just this one niche area and whatever. And that's fine if you want to do that. That is up to you. Content creation is about what you want to do and what you feel. But it feels like you get copy cutters after a while. Right, there's like a million people talking about Star Wars, a million people talking Star Trek. Sure, they give their what is it? They give their perspective on it or whatever, but it feels like it starts melding together, and it's either one side or the other. You start seeing these. I mean, you get older, you start seeing these patterns. But for me, it's just like I want to be able to go anywhere. Reading Rainbow, I can go twice as high, read a book, take a look, it's in the book, that sort of thing. I wanted to go just about anywhere. Of course, there are topics. If someone says pass, we'll pass on. Whatever. I'm not gonna go into it too deep because you don't want to make too many enemies in life. But but the thing of it is, like, the conversation you have all this politics stuff. You have all this men and women against each other stuff. There wasn't really a conversation happening where you could just have one. It was pick a topic, talk about topic, ha 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 ha, give perspective, pick another topic, and it just go from it's like, why can't I have just the sound of music sort of thing where I could be up there singing and dancing, the field is wide, unless I trip over a rock, then it's another story. But but it's like, why can't I have this freeing field where I can go wherever? And so far, June is full again. Or sorry, I have another. Sorry, not June is full again. That'd be weird to say. Another month is full again, and I didn't think I could get that. That's the impressive part to me, right? That's the impressive part to me. I didn't think I could get 3 months full of people, whether they be content creators or not. I didn't think I'd get 3 months full of people just to talk to about whatever. That shows that something is missing. I may not get the views and the donos and all the followers like you see all these other big ones, and of course they've been around for years, but I'm not getting them because I'm not following the algorithm or whatever. I'm getting something that feels missing, and it's working to a degree. I still have to build up my name. I still have to ask for engagement because that's part of the ordeal. But at the end of the day, I'm proving something is missing. Whether you agree on it or not, something is missing that I'm able to get 3 full months. 3 full months of people. The weekends I don't count because, one, there are exceptions in case people can't do it a weekday. I had a father-daughter duo on Heck and the Y. They do Fridays, and of course the weekend is just more suitable for them because child is in school. Some people can't do it because of their own scheduling. I don't count the weekend. So weekdays, out of a month, I've been be able to fill them up.
That's quite impressive, honestly.
I still don't think I can, keep it up because it's just like I have a backlog of people I can go to, but it's like, again, my credibility, my name recognition thing, it helps in being able for somebody not to turn away and say, doesn't have the numbers, not gonna bother, whatever. I'm just like, why? I may not have 100,000 or 1,000 subscribers, but why won't you just have a conversation with me? You're not big enough, you don't have the plaques, you don't have the stuff. Like, that's a low. I mean, I'm not saying that those people have said it. I'm saying, and the fact of that there's some people who may have.
I do know people that would say that, though. I do know a lot of people that would say that. I actually worked with some of them. There's one guy. He said something very sobering, which was he wanted. Well, first off, you have to remember the people that will do anything for views.
Yes,
are usually people that are running from something. They are hurting down deep. I got to meet a couple of them face to face, and some of them I can say they felt trapped.
Right.
Some of them felt abused by the other people that we're working with, and they didn't feel like there was any way to escape. Well, the way to escape was more fame. If you can get more famous, well, then you can have that attention, that care, that love, you could say. In fact, you know about how Robin Williams died?
Well, there's conflicting stuff. One was suicide, right? End of life. Or it was something about like protein buildup in his brain. And that's what ended him. I can't remember what the name of the disease it was, but there's conflicting things. It was like, first it was suicide, then it was some protein buildup in his brain. It's difficult to pinpoint which one, but I tend to go with the that he had something within himself that was just a buildup, and it eventually ended him. But it's not clear. It's not clear, is what I'm saying.
Mhm. One of the things that he mentioned beforehand that stuck with me, I heard this mentioned about a couple of days after he had passed.
Mm,
Um, that he was mentioning to people that in a past routine when he would be doing like stand up or whatnot back in the day, he
right.
mentioned that the people that are the most entertaining, it can make you laugh the most, are the people that are hurting the most.
Hmm.
And I have seen that play out. I've known many actors, not big time actors, they're smaller actors, but they all suffered from the same thing.
Mm,
They hurt down deep. And I found that I was working backstage at a theater, and that's
mm,
when I started hearing these stories, because I was just the stagehand. I was the
right.
guy working on sets, and so
Mm,
you get this actor who would come in and he'd just sit down and he would just start to stare off into the middle of space, and then they would come back and it's like they would start to tell you a story about what was going on in their life.
mm,
You didn't have to ask for it. All you had to do was be genuine. And they
yeah.
couldn't trust the people that were the actors. They trusted the person who treated them normal.
Yeah.
That's when I started noticing these people hurt. And this all ties around to the YouTuber stuff and clout chasing,
Yeah.
because I feel like this is the same thing.
Mm,
The big time YouTubers with thousands and thousands of followers,
yeah.
they usually are hurting the most. And some of them are the ones that get really big, become bullies, because they find out that if you don't want to hurt, you make someone else hurt. Then everyone else is too scared to hurt you.
Mm,
And that is literally how they actually behave. That's why it doesn't matter if you have 1,000. It doesn't matter if you have 2 followers, because it's usually yourself and maybe a family member. But the difference is the spirit behind why you're doing it.
yeah.
You have an honorable approach to this. And I hope more people wake up to that. But the big thing we got to make sure we don't do is fall into the trap of clout chasing, of trying to dig for fame, because it's not going to help us. It's only going to make our lives more miserable. And
Mm,
you may be miserable. This is not the area to live out your misery. This
right.
is where your misery doubles down and starts to close the door behind you.
Mm, yeah.
I'm off
Well,
my soapbox.
no, you're fine. No, that's when I came up with 2 questions too. Like I've said before, is like, for content creation, what are you going in for, and what are you expecting out of it? Because you see a lot of people who look up at YouTubers because YouTube is still the king of platforms. You see these people going into YouTubers or looking at YouTubers and say, I could be that, and you could, but the slim of that success writing out to where you don't have to do a 9 to 5 is very slim. It's so slim. Lightning striking twice in the same place has better chances to happen than that, I think. I'm not good at my
Well, yeah.
statistics. I'm not good at my statistics. Don't ask me on that one. But you kind of, and again, it's about learning from other content creators you've seen and learning their mistakes. It's taking from that and say, look, it'd be great for all the likes, the donos, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you forget why you started doing this in the first place, if you forget why you're even, then there's no point. All this stuff, you should just walk away now, because there's no point. There's no point. We're getting to the point where you have all these different platforms, and almost everyone wants to be an influencer because they think it's easy money. There is no easy money. Unless you find it on the side of the road, and that's easy money. But still, there is no easy money beyond that point, because all money, there's a road to it, good or bad, right? Because there are good or bad roads to it. I do this. Well, there's a few reasons. One is I do this because I am not the most outgoing person in my life anyway. But doing this, you get better at speaking, you get better at conversational, and you get to learn about people beyond your scope of where you're at. The internet allows that. Again, I've said this before, any tool a human has created is a double-edged sword. Always has been, always will be. Why? Because you can take a garden hoe, till the land, plant some seeds, all this stuff, or you go kill your neighbor. It's that simple, right? I mean, there's gray
That's a
areas.
good way to put it.
It's gray areas. There are gray areas in life, but at the end of the day, any tool humans have created, double-edged sword. Always have been, always will be. Why? Because the object is inanimate. It cannot do harm. A rock by itself cannot do harm. Now, obviously, you could say, well, if there's a landslide, sure, a rock falling down can hurt somebody. But if it's not in that position, it can't hurt anyone. A rock can't hurt you if it's inanimate, if it can't move without its own. But if you pick it up, you could take it, polish it, make something of it, or harm somebody with it. You are the difference, not the rock. It's just something to pick up. And another thing is bias, right? A lot of people, we're all biased. We all biased against, two of the biggest things that affect us all human beings is cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias, especially confirmation bias. And doing this, talking to other people, allows me to break away from that, because I'm not here for arguments. I'm not here for debates. We can have our disagreements. That's fine. But as long as we're able to continue the conversation after the disagreement, after that fact, not get all, angry and whatever. Because when you go for so far into the emotional aspect of it, you begin to realize that's how we react to almost everything. Politics, life. I just be the pill that tricked me. Okay. I apologize. I apologize, but it's your fault for that pebble. It is your fault for that pebble, to be honest. You weren't paying attention. And that can happen too. Like a sidewalk is up, like those sidewalks that haven't been taken care of, they're up. You're not paying attention. You trip over. It's like, it kind of is your fault. But it's
Howdy
also
there, Bastion.
Yeah. Hey, oh, Bastion. But again, it's just like I'm making better at conversations and meeting people, doing this to go beyond my grasp of my own biases, because I'm not perfect. I'm human. It's also to learn from other content creators of what to do and not to do, and it frees me, because I don't care for my full-time job. It pays my bills. Great. I don't care for it because it's not as enjoyable as getting to sit down with someone like you or Phoenix or Jack Tarlett or so many other people I've had on, and just get to laugh with them, get to talk about whatever, and go from there. I mean, I hope one day this becomes successful enough that I can actually have a place where I can sit down with the person, right there in front of me, that sort of thing. But that is more of a dream vision than it is, working towards it. Maybe I will, I don't know. But right now, I'm enjoying this concept of sitting down with other people, no matter where they are. As long as they can speak English, because I don't speak another language. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. You're not going to speak.
What, you're not going to speak in Zulu?
Or Mandarin? I don't know. Sorry. But over the period of time I've had people on and come back on, right? Like I've had multiple people return. I've learned to realize that there's a lot of similarities of things we want and need, and yet we complain about now getting to that point, or we wait on someone else to lead us to get to that point, and more beyond that scope. But those are just a few things of I'm naming. But you begin to see how forget the C19 stuff, forget all this stuff. You begin to see how much complacency we've allowed technology that we've created. We created technology. We've created the PCs. We've created smartphones. We created all this stuff. We've allowed technology to be our complacency, and we've allowed it to be our new God. It basically is. It basically is. But we can't live without it, because jobs, all this other stuff, ordering, making sure to see what the weather is, and all this stuff. We have the palm of the world in our hand, and yet we allow it to rule us. And we don't even know it. We don't even know it. Or we do, but we ignore it. And it's like the game Candy Crush, right? You remember Candy Crush was big years ago. People would do microtransactions on that stuff, and they would give money in order to get those powers with it. But you saw the dark side of what this technology has become. The light side is I get to connect to you. I'm in Indiana, you're in Alaska. You're just 4 hours behind me. So, but we get to connect at this moment. We get to be, Rumble Studios has created this thing, and it's great. Sometimes it has issues, but it's great. And we get to connect in this thing where our time gets to be encapsulated like a time capsule, and people can come and watch it later and enjoy it and say, "Oh, I kind of feel that feeling," or I understand that sort of thing. And we kind of get it's the same with everyone I've had on. We kind of share an experience of a moment, and those people get to come back later and say, I can understand that, or I can agree on some matter or whatever. But there's no arguing about the thing. There's no debating about the thing. It's just, I have a different perspective. You have a different perspective. And we can sit down together and show that we don't have to be the mean, angry folks you see on TV all the time, because majority of the time it's dramatized. We can sit and have a conversation. And that's what I'd rather do. Now, will I get to having millions of people on? I don't know where I'll be in the next 10 years, but I hope that this will be successful enough that, because again, that's what my pay it forward stream is too, right? That's my own money going into it, because I'm not making very much off of Rumble, and I make nothing because I'm not monetized on YouTube. But that's a point of continuing the humbleness, right? It's a financial thing, but when you get big enough and you can make millions of dollars, right? Of course, majority of that's going to be taking my taxes. We'll go in. That's like the lottery. If you win the lottery, you got to pay a majority into taxes. But you see these stars who just spend it on shite, big planes, big all this stuff, all these mansions. Not all, a big chunk, right? I apologize, not all, but a big chunk, because there are some millionaires who drive crappy cars and are still millionaires. The people who show off, who get flashy with all their millions or whatever, those are the people, and probably to agree with your point about being hurt or lost or whatever, are probably in that same position, or there's something else going on, because then you hear the stories about drugs and overdosing and all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Paying it forward for me, and I've said this many times, paying it forward for me is giving without anything in return. Because if you expect something in return for giving, you are not giving, you are just transacting. Of course, I would say, yeah, it'd be nice if they noticed if I gave the thing or whatever, but if they don't see it in a minute or two, or however many minutes, we go on to the next person. And I've been surprised of how many times those people that I've stopped by and they didn't respond during, they come back later and they respond. They say thank you, or something to that similar manner. You will not know the true power of reciprocity until you do reciprocity, and do it in the way that doesn't require something. Doesn't require you requiring something in return. My words. I apologize. I apologize. But at the end of the day, I do it because, one, it helps me get people on like you, right? Or Heck in the Wire or whatever, because it allows me to meet these people. One, it also shows support on Rumble, because it's the only platform I'm doing it on, because YouTube, the characters, they charge more per, the characters and stuff. And I'm like, for $2, I can do the same amount for $2 as I can for 500. And it shows how much a little can go a long way.
There was a guy, he'll remain nameless, but there's a YouTuber who decided that his $2 minimum for super chats was no longer worth it. He upped it to 20. And he made a killing. That's what made it sad. The more money he got, the more cruel he got, the more cold he got. And I'm glad I got a chance to see inside that, because it gave me a chance to know that dark side without having to walk that path myself.
Right.
It scares me. It truly does scare me what happens with these places, with some of these channels.
Yeah.
But let me just mention this. If I wanted to follow in the footsteps of the Carnegies and decide to get into big oil and steel and all those other things that they invested early on in the 1800s and 1900s, I mean, they laid out the game plan. They made an example of how you can actually go out and do it.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen. In fact, I would dare say the moment somebody has found a way to climb a ladder, the ladder crumbles behind them. No one can really duplicate another person's success. If I was to say list the give me the most famous the most famous video game streamer, what name comes to mind?
Dr. Disrespect.
See, if I had asked you that question 10 years ago,
Mm.
it would have been PewDiePie.
Yeah.
Right now, Dr. Disrespect isn't even on my radar. I mean, I know who he is, but
Yeah.
he's not the one that pops to my mind. I think about this guy who does the dumbest the dumbest videos
Mhm.
called Let's Game It Out, and it was hilarious to watch. But that's
Oh,
because
yeah. I've heard of him. Yeah,
those
he
things
does the
become
he
he'll
tests
just
games.
destroy a game.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff. He's pretty funny because he was playing Hydroneer once, and he was breaking he made it so bad that the frames were like 1 frame per second. I was like, this dude is breaking, but that helps the game creator too.
Mhm.
It's sort of a two-way street. But yeah, no, you're not too far off.
Precisely. Well, we can give multiple names at this point.
Mm.
There are some people they would give a whole different list of people. But the thing is that PewDiePie's success will never be achieved again. And I don't care how famous somebody becomes, they will never reach that same level of fame because he was the first.
Yeah.
But if you find a way to put a twist on it,
Mm.
suddenly it becomes a lot more plausible.
Mm.
But then it's kind of like a mad dash to see who can become first. And I notice with a lot of these bigger channels, they're trying a whole lot of new things
Mm.
and they're burning bridges in order to do it.
Cutthroat.
You
Yep.
reach out to people.
Mm.
That's commendable,
Mm.
which I, again, would reiterate, much appreciate you came by. And honestly, if you had or had not given the funds
Mm.
that you did, I would have still said, you know what, I'll still interact because
Yeah.
I had seen the cold side of what happens when people don't do that.
Mm.
And it affects you psychologically. You become egotistical and hateful. But there are people where they are seeing folks that are trying to innovate and they intentionally go by and try to cut them off at the knees and say, nope, we got to make this harder for you because we're trying to figure out the next big thing because we know we have to be the first person up that ladder. And so it's becoming this bloodbath online, I would dare say, of people trying to find the next big thing. And no one has quite hit upon it. And so I find this kind of a weird time. I kind of wish that I had gotten in about 10 years ago, back when it was kind of still new. Couldn't have happened. I didn't have the equipment or whatnot, but still, it would have been far better to do that early on than right now.
Yeah.
But now we have a chance to correct that and say, hey, let's bring on the more personal side. Let's try and correct the madness that everyone has been in to try and get to this point and remove the coldness and the hate and start to actually treat people as normal folks again.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you know, the road is an easy road, but I digressed. Bunch of snakes with ladders. Someone should make a they already have. It's called Hasbro. Goodness. But anyway, we've gone past the so there's a we've already gone past the point, but during when I have somebody on at the top of the hour of every hour I have them on, I set aside some time for us to promote ourselves because you know, people say grifting, people say shilling, all this stuff. Those are just negative connotations that have just kind of fills it out a bit. But promoting still has a more positive benefit to it because again, we're on this platform. I have 2 platforms actually because I stream both YouTube and Rumble.
Ooh,
But
nice.
your link is down in the description below. But if you want to, you know, sell yourself of why people should come to watch you and stuff, go for it.
Much appreciated. Let's see here. My goal is not to become any sort of big streamer.
Mhm.
My big desire is to become a meaningful artist and storyteller.
Mm.
I've been working on stuff on the side. It's a small upstart studio of animation and storytelling. We got our first couple of shorts out. It's called Castercraft, and basically it's named after a beaver. So a beaver in Latin is a caster. The
Oh.
reason why is because beavers are the hardest working, most family oriented animal in the world.
Mm.
Human beings have a lot to learn from them. They raise their young to follow in their footsteps. They
Mhm.
are changing the land. They're making safe havens for all sorts of creatures.
Mhm.
And so I wanted this group to kind of emulate that, to
Right.
actually try and follow through with doing something that once upon a time was common,
Mhm.
building up community, caring for those um, that are trying to master their craft. And so Castercraft is the attempt to try and do that.
Right.
Now, you can find that on Rumble. You can find it on YouTube. It's again, there's only 3 short animations so far, but we have more that are in the works, and we have some bigger projects in the works as well. But it only is in its infancy, and we
Right.
are one, sometimes 2 people working on it, and a very small but very dedicated and considerate audience.
Mhm. That's pretty awesome. Again, yeah, because again, your website you gave me also leads to your other links as well. So that's a great way of getting them there, putting it all in one place, and then they can just the hub, and they just kind of go out from there because you want people to see where you put your stuff in case one falls or whatever. That's why multi-platform myself is because a platform in itself cannot be fully trusted because again, technology is whatever it is. I mean, if an EMP knocks out the power, we're all done for anyway. So no more content creation, right? You'd be like, "Wow, Alaska's kind of dark." Oh, that's right. Um,
Hey, well, we up in Alaska will at least have resources to rebuild.
yeah, all that oil. Ooh. Like
Yep.
that fire. But anyway, so for my end thing, so guys, I stream to both YouTube and Rumble at Daramouthe. I have a Discord at Daramouthe as well. I have a fan account at Daramouthe on Twitter X. I'll explain that after. And I also have an email. Look, guys, um, I try to make it as simple as possible to try to get to me in order to come on and say, I would like to come on the show. Not me saying it to it, but more like you, the individual, saying, I saw your show. I would like to come on. Go to the link tree. Any of the links down below will lead you at least to some place where you can contact me, whether you end up in my email or the Discord or whatever. There are options to find me and reach me because, again, I'm wanting to show I'm not here for debates. I'm not here for arguments. I'm not here for negative trolls who just want to destroy and not have a conversation. I'm not here, if you want to scream and yell about something about, we can vent. That's fine. It's just when it starts turning into just this horrid bashing or whatever. I mean, I've been pretty heated at times, but nothing the fact like I tear down people or whatever. This is about coming together because uh, there aren't enough conversation pieces. It's all about either entertainment, politics, or gaming is an entertainment. So I guess I could just leave it at that. It's either gaming, entertainment, and all this stuff. There's no, from my perspective, the people I followed, there wasn't really anything more than going on, and that's why I felt like doing this was more than. And obviously, one day I'm looking to break those fears and say you don't have to be in this niche anymore. You can go anywhere, and I feel like that should be more the case. But I'm just me. But anyway, guys, yeah, the link tree down below. Or if you don't want to do the link tree stuff, just leave a comment in either YouTube or Rumble. That's even the easier thing if you want to do that. And you can contact me that way, and we can get started again. met AlaskaManJeff through my pay it forward, met Heck and the Y, the father-daughter duo through the pay it forward. A lot of a chunk of people through the pay it forward have been on here. Some have been through Twitter X, which is where I do a majority of my communication because I've communicated with a lot of different people. And I'm excited for next week because there's one person I was waiting on to get an answer from. And I got that answer and they're coming on. And I'll once that next week comes, I will mention who's coming on. But anyway, but there is a second part to this because obviously it's the first part of finding me, where to find me, all this stuff. The second part is the engagement factor. Look, I know you've heard a lot of YouTubers say share, like, and subscribe. You've heard that mantra so many times that like pours out of your ears and your nose, and you're just like, what's going on? But for me, it's like the understandability of why I ask for help with engagement is because it helps me being seen. And me being seen allows more opportunities of me asking people or more people seeing me and saying, can I come on? Because again, I'm doing weekdays and sometimes the occasional weekend, depending on the person, coming on and just having a conversation about whatever. I know people ask about what's the topic, and I because again, there's a lot of content creators. The majority of content creators do that. They give topics, whatever. I'm like, no, the topic, the conversation is the topic. You talk about a little about you and can go from there. There's no difficulty now. I know. So I've had people who haven't shown their face. I've had people who aren't creators. I've had people who were nervous or anxiety ridden, and I can carry the show a bit on my own. But in order to have more different people on, at least to build my credibility, to build my being undeniable, right? Because I can still be denied. Somebody can look at my numbers, whether it be YouTube or Rumble or even both, and say they don't have enough. They're not getting the numbers that I'm getting and all this other stuff, blah, blah. And as you've heard AlaskaManJeff say, there are people that are like that. So this helps. I'm not doing it to search fame, although that sort of thing is nice, when you have the spotlight on you. But at the end of the day, we both know that too much of it can end up you being either OD'd or killed. And I'm just doing this because I see something that's missing and I get to share it with the other person on the other way. And one day I hope that it's successful enough that I could, sort of be Tim Poolish, where you can invite people over and all this stuff. I don't know if they stay at the compound or whatever, but to have a place that, whether it be one or two people or a small group, can come together, sit together face to face and with some microphones and just have a conversation. This is this very homely, authentic place. I've talked about like the vision house of what that would be, but that's a long time from now. But anyway, guys, either a like, follow, share, or a comment, all of them or one of them, it does not matter. Anything helps because again, I'm looking to have more conversations with more different people, just to chat, just to sit down and be as people, because it's tiring to watch the news and all this other stuff and all these other content creators, and it's really not a conversation. It's more just like clucking chickens at this point, but that's just me. That's just my perspective. So, but anyway, thank you guys for your help and stuff. If you do, and it does mean a lot because again, I do kind of have to build my name to be undeniable, because someone could look at like earlier, someone could look at it and just say, not enough. If I'm undeniable, they can at least give me a second look and say, I've heard about this guy. Maybe I'll give him a shot. And that's what I'm aiming for. I'd rather have, more people come to me and say, can I come on your show, than me going out to them and saying, will you come on? But for right now, I enjoy the process. And even though it's rough at times, I like making the thumbnails, doing the shorts. I use programs that are out there, Canva for the thumbnails, Opus.pro for the shorts, and I use an AI thing called Claude.ai to help with like wording descriptions or proofreading descriptions and sort of stuff, just to use these tools that are out there. Because again, people can have their complaints about AI, but I'm here to tell you it's not going to go away no matter how much you complain. People probably said the same thing about when the first cell phone was built. People probably said the same thing when the Gutenberg press was built. Once a new technology
You're telling me.
What?
The AI.
Yeah, I know. You're probably gonna have your
I know.
opinion. We'll get there. But at the end of the day, the genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back. But those are the tools I use to kind of help with the process. And that, of course, the thumbnail thing is not AI, but it is just kind of simple. I'm simple with my thumbnails. If you saw my thumbnail, I am basic. There is no all these squiggly lines and gifs and all this stuff. I am basic. That's how easy of I am going with this. I am very basic. But go ahead. I see you're chomping at the bit. Go for it. I know what you're gonna say. Just do it.
Um, so kind of similar to how you wanted more genuine interactions online.
Mhm.
I view something sacred and precious about human beings,
Yeah.
and that's where AI crosses the line for me,
Mm.
because it's become something where it's not designed to replace an arm, not designed to replace the legs.
Mm.
It's not designed to do a muscle movement. It's designed to try and replace the person that is being the creator.
Mm.
So, in Judeo-Christian values, we tend to think about the past, that the first sin was the decision to rebel against our creator.
Mm.
And AI is kind of similar to that for us. It's creating something that's designed to rebel against humanity in that sense. A
Mm.
few people can abuse it. So
Yeah.
could it be useful? Oh yeah. A lot of people have found a lot of profit with it.
Mm.
But that's actually one of the reasons why I'm in the field that I am,
Mm.
because art has been under attack. But what's more, it's the beauty.
Mm.
Beauty is under attack. I live in Alaska. I'm surrounded by natural beauty.
Right.
AI, every time AI tries to create beauty, I cringe, because it doesn't have the soul that you see in real life. It doesn't have the soul that you can see through somebody's ability to paint it with a paintbrush or
Mm.
draw it with a pen. There's something impressive about the natural beauty that comes about in our world. And AI, so to speak, defiles that. That's the reason why why it kills me,
Right.
because I'm in the world of artwork that has a lot of people that are looking at their jobs and thinking, art, what's going to happen?
Then you would have to say that for the majority of technology we use, right? Computers, PCs, uh, digital drawings, right? People use digital canvases to draw and other
They
stuff.
do.
People use a Wacom tablet to do their animations and whatnot. So at that point, you're basically gonna have you're gonna have to tell people who use any form of technology beyond, say, Amish form, right? Amish style. No, you can't use that anymore. And while I get it, right, I'm not here to rail against you or whatever, and because your position is you see this thing that to you deep down disturbs you, which is great to share, because then your perspective gets out there and people can, either share in it or disagree with it. And the great point of it is we can disagree with each other or share with each other and walk away and not feel like we've just beaten each other up with a bunch of clubs. The saying of the Canadians beating, baby seals with clubs. That's not a good idea. But at the end of the day, though, when you were looking at the progress of humanity, right, from the, I don't know, the invention of the wheel to, again, the Gutenberg press, to the invention of cell phones and electricity and all these other things, at a certain point, there were people who probably said the same thing you are now of AI, right? Why the Gutenberg press was a big one, right? Because the church was in charge of the reading the book, the Bible, and all this stuff. And then all along, this thing comes along, of course, and the reading of it too, right? Because majority of people probably weren't well read. They weren't literate, is the word. But then some comes along where now this Bible can be printed for everyone. It's no longer contained to the power, and that's where you have this freedom with it. And there were probably people in the higher up said, you shouldn't have this, it's the devil work and all that stuff. Same proposition. Cell phone. What was the cell phone inspired by? Star Trek, the tricorder, right? I bet you anything, people are like, "What is this box thing?" Whatever, or probably we're speaking up against it too. Airplanes, they were probably speaking up against it too. Along the way of human invention and technology, there's always been a person or group. I'm not going to say a number because you never know. There's always been a someone or group or whatever to speak out against the new technologies coming because again, oh great, electricity, oh great, now our whole lives will be ruined and all this stuff. Oh wait, the light bulb, so on and so forth and so on. Again, as I said before, technology is a double-edged. Anything created by humanity is a double-edged sword because of its use, right? And you've already spoken upon the dangers of use of AI. We've already seen that with, what was it, the whole Taylor Swift thing. The point of the matter, though, is that it's inevitable with any technology because we are human beings. Our curiosity drives us to, like Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk wants to build rockets to Mars. Well, whatever his true, I think his true reason is to Mars, but I'm sure there's more than that. But again, for the first one, the first moon landing, right? We're in a race to, or at least the story is we're in a race against the Russians and all that stuff. But human curiosity was still involved with that. That's the thing people. Yeah, that's the thing people keep forgetting about. Whatever technology comes next, human curiosity drives the next step. Whether you agree with it or not, I get it. I'm not here to bash anyone who dislikes AI or whatever, but I'm not gonna just stop using the stuff because you disagree with it. I'm gonna use it because it makes what I do a bit easier. Again, Opus.pro has a bit of an AI. Some of it still is off. You still have to edit and whatnot, but there's still a part of me there in doing that remark. But I know you're gonna say something.
Yeah. So one of the things I found interesting, because at first there's like some sort of gut reaction of when I first heard about it.
Right.
I didn't believe that it was possible at first, but then they started showing how they're doing it, and I thought, oh, this actually does something far bigger, far simpler than what I thought it was trying to do, but it's far more devastating. Here's the idea. Back in the day, people would ride around the old world on their horses, and then they said, "Hey, look at this! We have now saddles. We no longer are going to get as sore riding around. We don't hurt the horse as much.
Right.
Oh, we're going to have stirrups, so we stay more stable. We have a bit, so that we can be able to help guide the horse. So, we're going to put these metal horseshoes onto it to protect the horse's feet." It was improvements that was designed to help the bond that was between man and beast. Then, within a 2-year span of the automobile being created, horses disappeared. A lot of them were butchered. A lot of them were set free. I think that's one of the. I think most of them probably became glue, if I'm to be completely honest. But it was something where it happened very quickly. Each one of them was addressing a feature of the horse and making its life better, until it came to the thing that challenged the essence of the horse. Then suddenly the horse was irrelevant. Sewing machine speeds up the need to make clothing. Car helps out, horse or car helps out people with traveling long distances. Computer, you don't need to go out and slave away in a mine. Now you can actually work from home. Phone, you can stay connected. It's your eyes and your ears to everywhere you go. These things were made to help improve the human experience. But now companies are looking at human beings and saying, wait a minute, this is the biggest cost that we have. Human beings are dead weight. Let's eliminate the majority of them by making them irrelevant. That, when I heard someone give an argument like that, it was when I was at Amazon. So right after college, I actually went to work for Amazon for 6 months,
Mm,
and they said something very interesting. They said, "You are going to be the robots until you are replaced."
mm,
That was a company-wide statement. And I was like, looking around, a lot of people were there because Amazon paid well.
yeah.
A lot of them were in tough binds,
Yeah.
and they started freaking out. They're like, why are we even working here? And they're like, well, you don't have any other choice. That's a terrifying spot for people to be in, to feel
Right.
like not only are they trapped, but to feel like they're irrelevant or soon to become irrelevant.
Hmm.
That's what concerns me about it.
Right.
Sure, human curiosity may make it impossible to turn back, but I also know there's other technologies. They're lesser known, but there are some technologies that start to show how dangerous they are, and then we start to pull back. Some of those we pull back for a while, and then some mad scientist comes along and decides to pursue it anyway.
Right.
But what concerns me is when we as a culture say, yes, let's all take this road together. I'm more in favor of watching someone else and see what happens to their culture, see if it survives or not, and then learn from it and then implement it over here if it works.
Hmm.
Back in the early 2000s, I was living in Japan,
Oh, nice.
and we were walking around Tokyo,
Hmm.
and we see these people playing on Game Boys.
Hmm.
Oh, wait, that's not a Game Boy. That's their phone. And they were working, trying to type out Japanese characters on this little tiny keypad,
Yeah.
trying to communicate with people through text messages.
Hmm.
They were playing games on it. It was like the first smartphone before
Hmm.
Apple came out with their iPhone. They had the predecessor of that.
Hmm.
And I saw the culture plunge. Japanese embraced it wholeheartedly. And suddenly we started seeing in the news almost every day, people bringing their life to an end for the lack of being relevant, to feeling isolated and hurt. New technology can be slowly implemented and it can be helpful. But if we rush into it, we might be setting ourselves up for a terrible atrocity that will happen in our own neighborhoods. And all that happened is that we watched it happen. That's why I'm so against it. It's not because I want to try and make people feel like they're trapped. It's more like I want to say, let's slowly ease into this so we know if there's a danger or not. Otherwise, we might pay the price today or tomorrow.
That's going to be a given anyway because we already do. Electricity, right? Electricity was way back in the day, and slowly over time it became the main necessity for us to live, right? I mean, a majority of the world is running on electricity, whether it be wind, solar, whatever generates electricity. The point of the matter is that we, without electricity, you can't do anything you want to do of what you're talking about. Your job, or your not your job, sorry, your hobby is pointless. It becomes pointless. This content creator thing, YouTube, Rumble, all of them become irrelevant because why? There is no electricity. And when there's no thing to run the items, whatever, and I don't get me wrong, I totally get what you're saying. You see the ride of this thing on a small part, and of course, Japan has its own issues, right? You know, the work environment, right? They have a different work environment than we do. So they, you know, as human beings, they supplement loneliness for something else. I mean, that's, we see that in America, obviously. The point of the matter, though, is that again, any creation humanity has ever made is a double-edged sword. Always has been, always will be. Because why? Because that is what we are. We're our own double-edged sword. Why the good, evil, that sort of thing. Technology is any form of technology, not just electronics, because there's different forms like the spear, all those other things, tools of great. If you want to talk, you talked about the Henry Ford and all this stuff, but what about the blacksmiths? There's you have blacksmiths still out there, but they're not of the accordance of what they were back then. Blacksmiths, candlestick makers, the people. There was people who used to come to your window or door and used to wake you up in the morning. Guess what took that job? An alarm clock, right?
Mhm.
So while understanding that factor of, well, of course, if you're working at Amazon, you sure know you're just a machine to them anyway, because Amazon is a company, a business of sorts, and the stories I've heard of them treating their employees any kind of kindness is zilch. I heard one story where someone just like, I think it was they wanted to go use the restroom and they had to hold it or something, or somebody died trying to shuffle things out or package things out to the truck.
2 people died at my location
Of what?
from their very bad safety precautions.
Yeah.
One person got hung, another person got crushed, and out of a staff of 50 people, that's a pretty bad record.
Now imagine comparing that to, say, workers in place where the requirements are much, much less. China, right? Because China has much less requirements. How many people are going over there right now and telling them to stop doing all those bad things and changing the way they do things? Anyone? Any takers?
The ones that speak up, they end up getting crushed.
Exactly, because that's the government they have. Exactly the
Mhm.
government they have. The point of the matter I'm trying to make is, while I get the fears, throughout history, throughout any technology that's been made, there will always be fears of any new technology made. Will AI replace a huge chunk of people? Probably, because of course we've seen that with like pictures of like the McDonald's and the what do they call those? Not rosters, the kiosks. That's right, kiosks. I was trying to think of the word. I couldn't.
The registers and the kiosks, yeah.
Yes. So it's going to come to that point. There are videos I've seen where they have technology, the vending machines. You talk about Japan, vending machines, right? You could get a meal from a vending machine in Japan. They have vending machines that will serve ice cream, will serve you could buy items from it, and you'll see a robotic arm move all this stuff. The point of the matter is, though, is as an individual, because you can't control the people around you, you can influence, but you can't control the people around you. How much are you willing to let the world control you and shift you to these things, right? And what you're doing is you're saying, I don't want to, I'm trying to stay away from that. I'm trying to do my own thing with the creation of art and all this stuff. You've chosen this path, which is much better suited for you, and you've seen the dangers and all this stuff. A lot of people are not in that guard. And there's something over you said, something about all. I can't remember what it was about though, but you did say something about all. And for me, it's like I wouldn't say all, because not all is on. I think it was on all of going down the remark of technology. I think it was what you were trying to say, or what you were saying. You said something of all.
Let me try and remember.
I
mentioned about how I mentioned about the horses, that all of them disappeared.
Yes.
Or if AI comes in, though, here's the thing.
Mhm.
Let's say that it starts off with the kiosks,
Mhm.
because that's part of this. So the kiosks are replace the person at the register, and then you have. We're going to use just a restaurant as the example.
Right.
The kiosk takes over. Then you have a robotic arm that is helping to cook the food.
Right.
You have different microwaves and cookers that are automated as well, or maybe pre-done at a mass factory and frozen properly. And then you start having a robot that goes around cleaning the place.
Mhm.
And then you're looking at your staff and thinking, do we need a staff of 10, 20, 30 people? No, let's just get the manager. We'll just have the manager, and everyone else will be cut off.
Mm,
Well, now all those people, they go to the next place,
mhm,
and then the same process starts beginning all over again. The thing is that there will be transformation. Uh, the sewing machine, the printing press, things will change,
mhm,
but there has to be something for people to go to. And right now, the thing that people have gone to when all these machines took over, all these machines that came around and started taking people's ability to do manual labor, and like, well, what's the one thing we have left? Our mind, our
mm,
ability to create and design.
mhm.
Oh, we don't need architects for this building anymore. We have all the math, we have the history of this stuff. Let's just have an AI make this building for us. Well, an entire company just got gutted, which, by the way, I actually know somebody where that happened.
Right.
So if you have all these companies simultaneously striving for this, and we have a fair sized population in this world,
Right.
where are they all going to go? Because not everybody can become an AI programmer. Not everyone can become a manager.
Mhm.
I had a great uncle who made orange crates. He literally could not do anything more. He was a bit of a simpler man, and so
Yeah.
he made orange crates.
Mhm.
And so when someone would have come along and said, "Hey, we're going to have something automate the orange crate," he would have struggled very hard to try and move up the ladder because he was a simpler man.
Yeah.
So that's what I get concerned about, is that the people about the lower 30-40% of the population, but somewhere between 20 and 50% of the population is all going to be cut in one swift motion. And that's what concerns me, is their well-being, because I actually know a couple of people that they're already kind of being given those warning signs.
Yeah.
But again, it might not necessarily happen, but I see a group of people that are becoming irrelevant, and down deep in their
Mhm.
soul, they don't have they feel hopeless. To tie it all back around, they're feeling as hopeless as what I saw with the Japanese when I was living overseas.
Mhm.
And I'm worried what they're going to start doing in their desperation, in their sorrow.
Oh,
So
there's a
I'm a bit
mini.
of a doomsday person when it comes to comes to AI.
Well, no, I understand. I mean, this black pill, whatever you call it, understandable. I'm just gonna keep pointing out to the fact that it's multivariate. It's not one or the other.
Mhm.
It's a rainbow of issues, right? Again, no matter what humans create, double-edged sword, good, bad, it is what it is. I wouldn't have worked for, even in desperation, I wouldn't work for Amazon, because you already hear the stories. It's like, why would you put yourself through? Yes, provide for your family, whatever, but then again, what does Amazon do really well? It you
Rob
pay.
people.
Well, people get robbed. People from those trucks get robbed or hurt, and there are videos of that out there. They, if you pay into the program, the was it not Prime Time? What is it? Prime membership, whatever it is.
Mhm.
What they do well is get your package to you within their specified time. Now, sometimes it's not always the case, but still, and especially when the C19 was going around, they boomed, right? They boomed. But that's what they do well, is getting your package to you quickly. And that goes into the convenience factor. That goes into the laziness factor. You see, there are psychological matters, which are sort of, if there's a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini, and he talks about the a there's a hen, or was a turkey or something like that, and there's a predator bird, right? And in order to keep itself safe, whatever, it sort of does it mimics the clicking or the clucking sound of the chickens, to sort of, the mother comes, all this stuff. Humans are not any different. There are ways to, marketing is majorly based on psychology, the thing that in the subconscious factor, right, the things you don't notice affect you. So yes, we can agree that technology has an addictive side to it. I just named Candy Crush. Very addictive game. I don't know if it's still out there. I don't know. But then
Yeah, it's
again,
still making a lot of money.
Yeah, but you see the point with it. You can say that about any console or PC game. But what do you see the majority of out there right now? Oh, gaming, right? People making their money on gaming. You do gaming too, right? Can you,
I do it as community building.
right,
But yeah.
right, and that's the positive side of the tool. But there's also the negative side of the tool.
Oh yeah.
The tool is a tool, regardless, but it is a neutral tool until you use it. Until I use it. But our choices of what we use it for are the difference. Now, obviously, you can have all those people talk about the this or that about AI, and I'm not going to do the whole debate thing on it because and I accept it to a point, but I also see your reasoning behind it as well, and that's something to take in consideration. But I also know, hey, here's that silver little ball, right? That little distraction. All humans have it. It's not ADD or ADHD or whatever you want to call it. No, it's just, hey, new thing happened. You've seen throughout, as long as you've been alive, right, where the new toy comes out, the new technology comes out, all this stuff. Hey, silver ball. iPhone's a perfect example, right? When the first iPhone came out, it had its issues, sure. And Steve Jobs sold it well because he's Steve Jobs. But as time went on, that silver bell kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And even if you talk to someone, you probably could knock them out of it. But then again, hey, I gotta work. I gotta do all this stuff. I gotta use my phone for. It's to the point where technology is integrated so far. The only thing that's going to take you out of it is a mass projection from the sun, knocking out all the power in the world, and we have to deal with each other. That's what's going to take. If we're talking about the scary dangers of technology, the only thing that's going to get it back to a point where you don't worry about that anymore, it has to be all knocked out on the same day. You lose
There
a lot.
is
You lose a lot with that, though. But again, a tool is a tool. Just finish.
no, certainly. So I on the side I study history. I have
Right.
family members who study history quite thoroughly. A lot of the things I've learned through them and in all the books that they've read.
Mhm.
But there is one thing that has stood out to me, and that is something that I heard a couple of years ago, and I've been hearing more and more as people are becoming familiar with it,
Mm.
and it's the concept of decadence. Once upon a time, it was actually considered a terrible vice. The indulgence of all the senses, the lack of value and meaning in one's life.
Mhm.
It was a downward spiral. In fact, the Romans blamed decadence as being one of the big reasons for their fall. And in looking back on history, I'm noticing a lot of cultures where when they start to have mass decadence, everything starts to fall apart. And we've been dealing with that, I would dare say, with our culture quite a bit. But we have like this group of people inside our culture that are fighting to try and stand against it. Now, I'm
Mhm.
not saying they're legitimately fighting, but it's more like they're challenging that sort of mindset.
Mhm.
And the thing that I see with AI is that if you take away people's ability to work, they're going to indulge in themselves. And we have a spiral of people wanting to not struggle. I'm in a place where if something goes wrong, I have to go out and I have to chop down a tree. I have to build a campfire. I have to beat back a bear out of a cave in order to find a place to live.
It's not gonna go
It
well.
is it is a tough state up here. And
Yes.
Alaskans are very, very tough people.
Mhm.
If something goes wrong, we have the ability up here to survive.
Mhm.
But if people become slothful, if they become addicted to the decadence, then I see them consuming themselves in that sense with their
Mhm.
own wants and desires. I think we're probably seeing that right now with our culture.
Mhm.
I definitely saw it with Japan. In fact, when I was at college, I was telling folks, hey, you know, I told the teacher I want to go back to Japan, and he said,
Mhm.
why? And I said, I saw a level of pain there that I could not forget, and I wanted to go back and help them. But a year passed, and I started seeing it in my own country.
Mhm.
I started seeing that same level of depression and sorrow starting to rise. With the rise of AI, I see that only accelerating.
Mhm.
And sure, we might not be able to stop it, but I do know someone who can. And it's actually our enemies. And I don't want to necessarily be too much of a doomsdayer, but places overseas, they rejoice when we become more decadent because they know that we become weaker. And there are a lot of nations foaming at the mouth to try and take what we have in this country,
Mhm.
whether it's wealth, whether it's people, whether it's land, whether it's just position and status.
Mhm.
A lot of people want that. And I'm not saying necessarily that we need to fight tooth and nail to try and hold on to it. I think that can make a whole lot of other problems. But
Right.
I do think that it's important that for our own culture's survival, for the survival of our neighbors and our
Mhm.
families,
Right.
that we make sure that we always stay vigilant in trying to stand against the vices that come our way. And
Mhm.
AI is a vice like we've never seen before. And I think it might be one straw too many, and then the camel's back will break. But again, I might be wrong. This is a multifaceted problem that our culture is trying to reason with. And I don't think we're going to know the answer until it's all done.
Until it's too late, which is usually basically the point, right? Like, people, I imagine people who, when they dropped the atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they didn't think of what door they'd be opening with that. But unfortunately, the door is opened, and now many other countries have nuclear bombs. So I think, well, yeah, and AI could play in that too. I'm sure people are going to be like Skynet stuff, but um,
China is foaming at the mouth for it. They could not make it. I will say this: China is not good enough to be able to make their own AI. It
mm,
is hilarious the AIs that they've AIs they've come out with, but they
mm,
are gleaning from ours, and they are putting it to some very sinister uses. I won't go into like all the details of what happens in China. I've spent a long time studying China.
mm,
It is terrifying. It is
mm.
truly terrifying what they do to their own people. And then I look at how they're wanting to use this tool, and I'm like, gee, I can't help but see a, a correlation between the more we invest into it and the more bold that they feel.
Well, I mean, the stories of Foxconn, right, and the suicide deaths. I mean, once you hear that, it's like, well, then they're just treat. I mean, they have billions of people. Don't get me wrong, but they treat their people as disposable. Um,
Mhm.
so, I mean, at a certain point, if you have never looked, I don't know if you looked or not, but majority of the stuff we have in our country is made in China. So they've won on a front to a degree by making the stuff we buy, the plates, the cups, pretty much everything at this point. I'm not sure about car parts, but at the end of the day, 90% of our stuff comes from China. You can look on it, see a tag. Hey, guess what? It's made in China.
Slowly but surely, it's
So,
changing. But yes, a whole lot is made over there.
of course, and then you have the smaller stuff like Pakistan and India. Those are just smaller. But compared to China, though, China has the market on items, and we've let that happen for decades. We've let it happen. Now you can say you can vote in a person, whatever. That's not really the point of the matter. The point of the matter is, though, is yes, we can sound the alarm and say enough's enough. We got to change it. But a lot of people like being set in their ways, and like you said, sloth. One of the seven sins, right? Sloth, greed, wrath, all these other ones. It is you can be the doom, not doom slayer, because that's something else. The doomsayer, sorry, the doom, not doom slayer, but
Yeah, there we
doomsayer.
go.
Otherwise, this would have been like that's not the case. The point of the matter is those you see the thing, you know the thing, and you're trying in your own way to your artwork and whatnot to change that. but those things it's like a slow drip over a rock, right? It's not going to happen right at this very second. And you hope that before you pass, before your breath leaves you, that you have inspired enough people that you can help turn the tide. You can, I know the saying of one man can change the world and all this stuff, but it's a very varied state. It's You've had some people in the past, like you could say Mother Teresa or whatever, but there are stories beyond stories, and we only get certain sections of history told to us, and we leave out the rest, or the rest gets cut out, or whatever. Winners write to history, right? At the end of the
The only
day,
person you can change but is yourself.
yeah,
When it comes down to it.
yeah, and basically, and while I understand the fears of AI or the uses of AI, at the end of the day, as you just said, the only person you can control is yourself, and where you go from that is up to you. And of course, again, I'm not going to get into the huge arguments that other people do. I'm not that person. I'm not here for arguments. I'm here for conversation, and it's been a swell conversation. Don't get me wrong, but I have to get to the point where I have to start saying goodnight because I do have to work in the morning. Because you are
Indeed.
4 hours behind me. So, but anyway, it has been a blast, Jeff. It has been a real blast, and again, you are always welcome back. Regardless of what thoughts are on things or another, you're always welcome back because, again, I didn't see this from content creators I followed. It doesn't matter what they're talking about, whether it be all about entertainment or whatever. People are stuck in their niches. I'm here to take the bat to all the spheres that we've built up. Don't know how well I'll do it, but I'm going to break them all. And I'm going to show you there is a field, soccer field, because that's a lot easier. Use a soccer field you can go to play in and talk about whatever. You don't need to keep talking about entertainment anymore that you keep calling dead. You don't need to talk about politics that's pretty much on its way out. You don't have to keep talking about the certain things that you consider a bygone thing. Things will change, things will move. There will be movers, there will be shakers, and there will be deniers. And unfortunately, we can only, as you say, control ourselves. And even then, that's a little bit hard too. So you have that issue as well. But at the end of the day, we can come together, we can have a conversation about whatever, and we can walk away not in anger, not in this state of whatever. And we can say, I think I may have learned something today, or I think it may have just been up to my history. And yet, on the next day, you can come back and talk again. And that's the important part of what Darachat is. So before we go, though, go ahead and promote yourself again because we have hit that hour part. I will do mine. We'll do a little game thing, and then we will close out, and that'll be it. Now, of course, I'll mention who's coming tomorrow as well, but go ahead and do your stuff.
Sure thing. Well, thanks again. This has been grand. I have to say it's very, very rare to come across any channel whatsoever that has that civil approach to things in conversation. You have your work cut out for you in this sphere, but you're at least making a dent, and hopefully after knocking on it several times, hopefully it will start to break down and you will find more success as you move forward.
That's the hope anyway. That's the hope anyway. I could still be here. I could be like at a poorhouse home and just sit with like this poor computer screen. It looks like cardboard. It's like, all right, guys, we're back again. It's like, this guy's sad.
Well, you're doing a good effort, and I wish you the best with that. One of the things that I will say is for the self-promotion side is that we are trying to do something similar in the world of art and animation and storytelling. And so Castercraft is going to be that vehicle to try and make that happen. It's hit a couple of snags, but the goal is to keep pressing forward.
Right.
I have had some folks reach out in the past that have really wanted to see this thing take off. I don't know how big our stories are going to get. We have everything from silly Lego animations to full-blown epics that are in the works. Those epics are probably not going to be able to happen for some time, but they are there to one day hopefully, should there be the ability to do it, we will try and make that. We are going to try and make something soon that will be kind of like a teaser for what that could be. So pay attention to what's happening at Castercraft. We are on Rumble and YouTube. We also have our own website, castercraft.net, and we have a bunch of updates that will happen over the summer and fall.
Yeah. And of course, that link is down below because you gave that to me. And I got to say, you are a pretty good storyteller. You have the voice for it.
Much appreciated.
When you can draw the story. I will say this, though. There was a ghostwriter who I follow on Twitter X. I call it, I'll explain that. I forgot to explain that. But he said something that was interesting, is that if you want to tell a story, you always start with, let me tell you a story in a persuasive sort of, whatever manner. But that was just something I learned. I mean, he does other stuff too, but he's a ghostwriter. But at the end of the day, you pick up tidbits you learn from other people and you pass them along, and whether it works or not, hey, at least you tried. But that was just what, as a storyteller factor, that was what it just reminded me of. But anyway, guys, so the first part is I stream to both YouTube and Rumble at Daramouthe. I have a Discord at Daramouthe. I have the Twitter X fan account at Daramouthe. I also have an email. Look, I don't know how to say the convincing. I don't know how to be the storyteller like AlaskaManJeff is. I don't know how to say the words that will make it sound eloquent, bearable, and will make you want to say, I will check that out. The only thing I do know how to do is just say, these are the places you can contact me at, whether it be in the link tree, the stuff in the link tree, or leaving a comment on YouTube or Rumble. If you'd like to take the opportunity or the chance, whatever you want to call it, to come on, just like AlaskaManJeff, just like Meg, just like Chad and Zio and Jack Tarlad and so many other people, whether you're a creator or not, it does not matter. I'll ask you to be respectful and stuff and not be so, whatever. At the end of the day, though, this is to have conversations with people around the world, because I've talked to someone in Australia. I've talked to some people in the UK. I have world traveled, but that's mostly to people I can understand. So if I can't understand you, I apologize, but I only speak English, unfortunately. I have tried to learn Japanese, but it's not gone well to some degree. But if you'd like to take that key that's been handed to you to walk through that door, go to the link tree, find those places, find me, or leave a comment on our YouTube or Rumble, and we can start from there. It's just that simple, just that easy. I know it can be like more than just a one-click thing, but hey, if it sounds enjoyable enough to you to want to go and try it, you will find the place to find me to go for. So, but the other part of that flip coin is engagement. Look, I know YouTubers say it all the time: share, like, and subscribe. You've heard it repeated so many times before. You think that one YouTuber sounds like that other YouTuber, but it's only during that certain section. It's basically a repeated mantra by pretty much all the YouTubers, not every YouTuber, but by a huge chunk of them. Because again, hyperbolic, trying to keep away from that to some degree. But what I ask is for a little help in the engagement. Look, if I want to have more people on, I have to be seen more. And being seen more means more opportunity of someone seeing me saying, hey, he invites people on that, whether they're a creator or not, big or small, doesn't matter. I can come on and I can have a conversation about it, whatever. I've had people on of that. I have people not showing their faces, so nervous or whatever. The opportunity's there, the chance is there, and I offer it. But the engagement factor is part of that thing. I didn't like asking for it in the beginning, but when I realized that it kind of helps in getting more people on, I kind of have to take that route. But I will explain to you why I'm doing it, right? Like content creators like, oh, just share, so I can get more likes, whatever. Look, it helps. It helps in just being seen more, so I can have more people on, like Jeff, like Tom B, and like so many others. And you'd be surprised, like today, of the conversations we can have. And that's the point of what Darachat is. May not be, I know some people are a little nervous because they want a topic or whatever, but at the end of the day, when you come on and you realize what it's about by going through it, right? Like a trial by fire is what I think they'd call it. you see something that is so much more than just this, picking a topic here, pick topic here, whatever. It is about the whole of what seems to be missing for some part, at least from my point of view, from content creators, whatever. But anyway, a like, a follow, a comment, sharing, any of it, all of it, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're willing to do helps. Because I'm telling you what, there are so many other people, so many different perspectives. There is so much more and so limited time to do it. And the engagement factor helps in being able just to grease the wheels a little bit. So someone says, I heard about him, I'm willing to give him a chance, instead of saying, nah, doesn't have the numbers. So, but that's my end point. Thank you all for being here. Oh, that's right. I did want to, first point is who's coming on tomorrow, because I'm getting that point. Tomorrow, it is tomorrow because it's midnight where I'm at. So technically it's tomorrow. So later today or tomorrow from your fun at 5 p.m. Eastern, I will have someone called Tiny Players on, and then contact through Discord, of course. But at 7 p.m., every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, well, except for holidays and family things, which I'll make sure everyone knows in advance, I do a thing called the Pay It Forward stream, which AlaskaManJeff was a recipient of. I go around on the whole collective of the live stream on Rumble, because I can do a little more. I can do a lot more with a little. And I go around, likes, follows, comments, a little money here and there, or whatever. And I just support live streamers streaming on Rumble during that time period. Again, I'll be starting with Tiny Players first, and then going to the Pay It Forward. So see me tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. And of course, there's a game I've been trying to. There's a little thing I added, and it's a cross between the actor studio, James Limpton. At the end, he would ask every actor the same amount of questions. Now, some of those are mixed in there, but not all of them. And then, of course, my favorite show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? And they have a game called Scenes from a Hat. And of course, you pick from a scene from a hat. You wouldn't know what it was until up. So whatever. So I've mixed the two, and it's questions from a hat. So my thought is to try to mix in trying to get rants out of it, but it's not been successful so far. But it's basically guest gets 2 questions. If chat would like more questions from the hat, they'd have to give a rant, which you can be $1 or whatever. I don't care. It's as long as it's something. But anyway, and it's very small, so there's not a whole lot in here. But maybe someday I'll add more if I can find, because they're just questions that anyone can answer. They're not specific questions. Maybe like specific, like what's your favorite color? That's not the question. It's just an example. But anyway,
I will expect to see a giant top hat one day.
One day, yes, one day is what I'm going for. But for right now, I bought this hat. This is a Rumble hat from their store, so I bought it for that occasion. So I am not looking. I am not looking at the ones. Okay, so I picked one out. This is what it is. Let me see what it is. Here's so. What's the most absurd piece of advice you've ever received about content creation?
The most absurd bit of advice.
Yes, about content creation.
Oh, golly.
You could pick anyone you want, just anyone.
Yeah. The most absurd one I heard was when I delivered a short film to a client. Mm-hmm. One of the YouTubers delivered a short film, and I asked them what did they like about it, and they said nothing. They wanted the whole thing to be redone, and they said just re-edit it. And I said, okay, well, we got a problem. I can't do that. You all shot the video. How can I? If you don't like it, what you're doing is you're saying that your filming of it is bad. So how am I supposed to actually do anything with this?
Oh, that's like slapping yourself in the face and saying, "Why'd you slap me?"
Yeah, which was really funny too, because we did a test audience and people loved it.
Yeah,
which raised the question even further: what are your guys' taste? but the advice that they gave for me moving forward from that is basically to improve my editing skills and understand how to properly edit for YouTube. Which, yeah,
That
it's
sounds
like you guys are talking to yourselves. That's what makes it so dumb. I wanted to create, like, there were things to improve upon. I asked someone else, and they gave me good, actionable things.
right.
But these guys, they didn't give any of the good, actionable stuff. Like, it could have been, hey, we're noticing that there's some jittering in one of these sections here. You might want to correct that. Hey, we noticed the pacing's not there. It's out of sync with the audio. Hey, over here, this is a great joke, but it might be better at the end. None of that. They just said redo the whole thing, and it's like, well, we can't do that without refilming. So just
Jeez.
yeah, did not go well.
That, yeah, and then they're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. Jeez.
Well, guess
All
what
right.
happened right afterwards?
What?
That's when all my work for them ended.
Oh goodness.
So yeah.
It's still funny. It's like, you guys, I can hold up a mirror and you guys will be talking to yourselves. You realize how redundant that is, right? No, just redo it. All right, picking the second question. Not looking at it. Not looking at it. Just picking one. All right, I'm going to see if this. I don't have any NSFWs in there, but there might be slight ones. Oh, well, this one you may be able to answer. What is your favorite curse word? If you do say curse word. If you don't, I'll redraw.
It so my favorite one is what in tarnation. See, you have to remember. So I didn't mention. I remember. I have history family members. When I was growing up, I grew up as if I was living in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I literally thought I was in the same culture as World War II. That is how old-fashioned I was raised. And so I heard that the worst things you could say to someone was, you're yellow, you are you're going to hell, you're what in tarnation. And it's like those were the bad words that you would hear. And then I got to college. I was like, why is everyone saying sexual references? Well, like, I'm used to things that are referring to people's character, their cowardice, and their family line, or that some negative, terrible thing about their horse.
That stupid horse.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. But no, I mean, that's again, it's the perspective of the person. So, like, if that's your curse word, man, go for it. But thank you again, AlaskaManJeff. You gave me the opportunity, and I showed you what this is about, and I'm glad that we at least enjoyed ourselves enough to hopefully come back again. You know, because I'm always trying to get new people, and the more new people you get, the more longer the list of like who you can go back for is and all that stuff. So I do appreciate it. But anyway, guys, so I end the show out with another. Of course, the beginning song was created by a person named Pogo, who you can find on YouTube, Pogo. We also created this one I end with. It's called One Day With You by Pogo. And don't forget to mute yourself. I hope to see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern with Tiny Players. It'll be a late night for me to try to set things up, but at the end of the day, I've got to, because it's going to be too late when I get done with work. So, anyway, thank you again, AlaskaManJeff. Thank you again for those who came to watch 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow or later today. It's midnight where I'm at. I keep forgetting it. You're in yesterday. I'm already in that day. So you're screwing me over, man.
And my sun won't go down until August.
I forget that. It's like 6 months up, 6 months down. But anyway,
Just
guys,
about.
yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much. Again, One Day With You by Pogo. Have a good night. Good morning. Good night. Whatever that line was from The Truman Show. See you later, guys. Bye.